So today I want to talk about transitions and triggers. Okay. We're in a transitional period right now, whether you're in the northern hemisphere or the southern hemisphere, transitioning into a new season. We're right in the middle of that, or right at the beginning of that transition, that fourth quarter, the final season. And this is a time where things shift and we get to look at the world differently, shift our perspectives, shift our actions, shift our thoughts, our behaviors, our self care gets to shift. So everything gets to shift. And this is something that I'll be addressing much more in depth as my Psychology of the Seasons She program develops. Um, so we've got that transition. This is seasonal transition. We've got, I'm sure many of us, especially this year during COVID, have experienced many life transitions, changes in our jobs, changes in the way we school our children, changes. There's lots of different changes. So anytime we go through a change or a transition, there's that element of the unknown. There's something, even when it's a welcome transition, sometimes we tend to like, it's a little, there's might be a little bit of resistance or fear involved. So in most transitions we can find that, even the welcome transitions. What I really would like to address today is the evolutionary transitions that we experience through life when we boldly step into a new level of consciousness, when we take that first step of going from complete unawareness, walking dead, living in the dark, completely unaware of our feelings. We just let life happen to us. I'm sure many of us have, all of us have experienced that. We just, life's us and we feel like we are on a trajectory and we have no control, like this roller coaster, and we're just hanging on for dear life and hoping it stops one day. And that's being in one place. And then as we transition into a new level of consciousness, becoming aware of our emotions, becoming aware of how we interact with others, becoming aware of the choices we make. This is a transition, and sometimes this can be a very scary transition. It's, I know when I first did my first transformational training almost 30 years ago, I'll never forget one of the lines one of my trainers used, and he says, "The good news is now you know. The bad news is now you know." And I remember for years after that, remembering him saying that and being in a place where I just wanted to blame. I just wanted to be angry. I just wanted to point the finger at somebody else and thinking, I hate the fact that I know right now. But once we step into that new level of consciousness, there's no going back. There's no going back. It is a trajectory that moves us forward. And I am forever grateful for that opportunity. And it's been, like I said, almost 30 years I've been doing this work. And I am finally to a point where I feel I can teach, I can share with you one of the aspects of the work that has been very instrumental in my growth process, my transformational process, my evolutionary transition. And that is working with the shadow. And I know shadow work and the shadow, it's a big buzzword now. And I understand that. And I also am wondering how many don't really understand what it is. So the purpose of me hopping on here today is to just briefly introduce what this is. What is the shadow? What is shadow work? Why is it so important? And how do I begin? So, what is the shadow? The shadow is those parts of ourselves that we don't want to look at. those parts of ourselves, those behaviors, those thoughts, those beliefs, the memories, it doesn't matter. They're all, the shadow has many, many different faces, and it appears in many, many different forms. And so it's all those parts we just don't want to look at. So the first part is really inquiring of ourselves. And so the shadow, just to get a little bit more of what it is, it's like I mentioned, it's those thoughts, behaviors, beliefs, memories that we don't want to address, we don't want to look at. We have them and we shove them down. This manifests through the physical body in disease, in aches and pains, in inflammation, in high blood pressure, and it manifests itself through digestive problems. I mean, you name it. When we stuff those emotions, stuff those thoughts, and do not eliminate them, they just sit inside of us and fester. So that's kind of jumping ahead to why it's so important. But so that's what the shadow is. It's those parts. It's that little white lie you told, believing and telling yourself that if I tell this person this white lie, it's for their benefit. It's to protect them. I lied to you to protect you. That is the shadow. When somebody calls and is nasty to you or whatever, and you react and you get all upset and freeze. It's like, for me, it's like when something like this happens, I react by shutting down. I go into paralysis. I do the freeze in the flight, fight, or freeze, and it completely shuts me down. And then I blame that person for what they did to me. That's the shadow. The blame is the shadow. That's my shadow. And then it'll come back around, and then I'll feel shame because I know I'll feel shame for blaming. That's more shadow. And then we get to ask ourselves, and now we're getting into what shadow work is. And then we get to ask ourselves, it's like, okay, we're going to step back. It's never about the other person, right? When this person said this to me and I blame them for my own reaction, that's a trigger. This is where the triggers come in. So when we're triggered, we blame, we point fingers, we make it about the other person. The shadow work comes in when we lift up the mirror, look in the mirror, and then say, okay, this whatever this person did or this action was, I felt this way. How am I feeling? How did that make me feel? Why did I feel that way? And how can I feel differently? All right, so the work is just stepping into a space of inquiry, building awareness, becoming aware of things. And it's then and only then, and this is easing our way into why it's so important. It's then that we know we have a choice. When we're back before we stepped in, when we're on that roller coaster hanging on for dear life, and we're just rolling with the punches, if you will, we don't have a choice. And we feel like we don't have a choice. We know we don't have a choice. Once we step in, it is then and only then that we can see what's happening. We can make that choice, like, okay, I can choose this way, or I can choose this way. The other day, here's a great example. This has been really on my mind, specifically working with triggers and things that trigger us and how they affect and what these triggers are, because that's really the easiest way to ease into doing shadow work is start to notice when things trigger you, whether for good or bad. So this has been on my mind. This has been what I've been focusing on all week. And Monday, I wrote my blog. And then Monday afternoon, I was driving to a yoga class I was teaching. And on the way there, I drove past a U-Haul truck company where you go to rent the trucks, right? So I'm driving by, and when I saw that truck company, the first thing that happened to me is I just suck. I was like, and I felt fear. I was scared to death because it triggered a memory in me of almost 2 years ago when I rented a U-Haul to pack up my stuff and leave my marriage. But because I've been working with and writing about triggers in the shadow all day, I noticed that right away. It's like, oh, look what that triggered in me. That triggered this fear and this like icky, yucky, contracted feeling. So what if I reframed that? So this is where the awareness comes in. It's like, okay, I saw that was a trigger. It triggered me to feel something I deem as bad, not pleasant. And so it's like, how can I reframe that? So I looked inside and then I remembered how much strength I had to have to rent that U-Haul, pack up my stuff, and leave that marriage. It was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do in my life. So by reframing that, now I know when I drive by a U-Haul truck store, I'm not going to be afraid. I'm not going to be triggered to feel fear. I'm going to step into my strength, step into my power. So that's why it's so important to understand this is when we can see it, we can illuminate the shadow, and when we illuminate it, it disappears. It goes away. And then we can focus on that which we want to be in our lives, right? Um, Another reason it's so important, to back up just a little bit, is when we don't address our shadow, those aspects of ourselves will control our lives. Those aspects of ourselves that we don't want to look at will show up in the people that are attracted to us, the people we are attracted to. It will show up in activities, in events, in experiences that happen to us as a direct reflection of our own shadow. Now, when I was like going through that process as part of the process to present to you, that really was an eye opener for me. Not that I hadn't looked at it before, but bringing it into a different light to share with you. You know, I had to ask myself, so if that's true, then the 10 years of mental and emotional abuse I endured, was that a direct reflection of my shadow, of those parts of me? It's like, yeah. And it not necessarily is that I was abusive. I was mentally horrible. And I do know, and I will confess, it's like I became a nastier person because of what I was going through. I did. Um, but what it showed to me, what I was revealed, was that being attracted to this person or having that person attracted to me brought to light some behaviors and belief systems in my own self that I had to deal with. Specifically, behaviors that are in direct alignment with codependency. And so I knew I had to address that. And I am still addressing that. So it's really important to look at who we're attracting in our lives. Who's in our life? Who's in your life right now that you just want to wring their necks, that you want to avoid because they're not fun? Take a good look at that person and know that they're reflecting back some part of yourself that you need to address. in order for you to move forward, to even step more boldly into that level of consciousness. Okay. So again, where do you begin? Start by looking at those triggers, those people in your life, the experience in your life, the side-eye looks, the words. Certain words trigger us, certain memories trigger us. Start looking at the triggers. What triggers you? And then do the inquiry. Why did that trigger me? What am I feeling right now? How can I reframe that? So that's kind of just a little bit about what the shadow is, the opening the door for shadow work, and how to begin and why it's important. So this all rolls into the experience I had before I hopped on here. So we did, as many of you know, and many of you I'm sure don't know, I am now, I've included the doTERRA oils and supplements and products into my business plan as part of my health and wellness coaching, because the products just work so well with living a natural life and self-informed healthcare in tandem with my yoga and my meditation. It's beautiful. So part of the team work we do, we have business team calls every week, twice a week. And today we had a brilliant surprise by Michelle Alva. And she is for the Wild Women of Abundance, Wild Women in Abundance. And she did an activation process with us. And it was so powerful for me. I mean, I had like 3 huge breakthroughs, like aha moments during this activation process. And then afterwards, hopped on the phone with her for a little bit because I'm going to join. She's got a program starting tonight called the Abundance Mindset Shift. If you're interested, text me. I'll put you in touch with her. I am super excited. It's a 30-day program, 4-week program. And if it's anything compared to what I did today, it's going to be amazeballs. But what we discussed in our conversation after the activation was, I was telling her I'm doing this shadow work, broadcasting everything. And she reminded me how important it is to shine the light not only on the shadow, because when we shine the light on the shadow disappears, right? If you come into a room and it's dark and shadowy, you turn on the light, all those shadows go away. That's basically what's happening, which in my belief is very important, is to turn that light on. And she reminded me, focusing on what we do want to shine our light on, the strength, like shifting that perspective, reframing, is super important. Because yes, I believe shadow work is important, but there's a line. We need to look ahead, look at the strengths in us. We want to look at the power, the creativity, the love, all the goodness that we all are, that we all have inside of us, and shine the light on that so it can shine even brighter. So I really felt it was important to, great, Nicole, I'll put you in touch. I'll contact you right after I get off of here. It's really important to not only turn the light on and shine that light on the shadows, but to remember at the same breath, in that same breath, in the same moment, shine the light on your strengths, your goodness, where you want to be, the qualities in your life that you want to develop. I want to thank you so much for hopping on and joining me today. A couple of quick housekeeping things. Just a reminder, I do 2 classes a week on how fucking cool using essential oils are. I do that on Tuesday at 4 o'clock Mountain Time and Wednesday at 6 p.m. Mountain Time. There, I've got events scheduled in the Facebook event. If not, you can just PM me. I'll get you that information, the registration link. And I also have got a cool special thing going on with my Yoga to Life online studio. And right now, up until I think I said November 30th, I can't remember what date I'm doing it till. But if you join the studio, I'm going to gift you some super yummy doTERRA products. I've got on the list a special holiday blend, the Citrus Bliss body wash, the Citrus Bliss hand lotion, and the Breathe Touch. If any of you are in the Northwest and still experiencing smoke or sagebrush allergies, it has been a lifesaver for me, the Breathe. So if you're thinking about getting into the yoga, I'll add my link to the yoga studio in the comments. You can check it out. I've got an information page. It tells all about it because it's so much more than just yoga. It's a whole bunch of stuff, and there's group coaching and DIY stuff and live classes and the 6-week online course. If you've never done yoga before in your life, it's very exciting. And we have a lot of fun in there. I've got just a lot of amazing women. We have a lot of fun. And if you bring 4 friends, so if there's 5 of you, your group can choose a day and a time that's open and have your own private class. A lot of fun. I've got one of those going on right now, and they love it. It's a group of sisters, so they get to see each other, and they're all over the country. They get to see each other every Wednesday. It's a lot of fun. All right, y'all. You have a fabulous weekend, and we'll see you next week. I believe on this She Stands vlog. I don't know if it's next week or the week after that, but I'm going to have Pam Wall joining me. And I'm doing the rest of my fall lineup coming up. I'll let you know when that's going to happen. All right, y'all. Have a great day. And let me know if you're interested in Michelle's program. And I'll get that information to you. And see you on the flip side. Peace out. Namaste, y'all.